Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to IntelliTect's AI Essentials webinar. I'm Wendy Corbin. I'm the Director of Business Development here at IntelliTect. IntelliTect is a software consulting firm located in Spokane, Washington. We have 40-plus software engineers that help our clients build solutions that fix their business problems. Our core work includes custom software development, AI and data solutions, cloud migrations, and system integration. Our team also prioritizes education, continuous learning, and collaboration with the development community. However, for the past few years, a large amount of our work has been focused on helping our clients support them through their AI journey. It is my pleasure to introduce Grant Erickson. He's the CEO of IntelliTect, and today he's going to walk us through the process we use with our clients to help them through their AI journey, including real-life examples of successes and failures. During the session, if you have any questions, please put the questions into the chat, and at the end of the session, we will address all of your questions. And with that, I will hand it off to Grant.
You know, I think this is one of the most interesting times in all of history to live. And the reason I say that is, you know, we've had the Industrial Revolution when they created the wheel, all of these things we've gone through as a human species. But when I think about the kinds of things that we're having to grapple with as a culture, and even, like I said, as a species, AI, I think, is one of the biggest ones that we've ever had to deal with. And I think when we look back in some number of years, people are going to study how we chose to either embrace or guard or shield or use or whatever it is that we do with AI. And I think there's a lot of, there was in fact just recently a Pew Research study, which we'll send out as a link here in the next couple days. I thought it was fascinating, that talks about people's kind of attitudes toward this. And I think as we as business leaders look to say, hey, what is our position and how are we going to lead into this time of uncertainty, I think we have this incredible opportunity to give people hope. And I think it can be a thing that's really scary for folks, but I think it's a thing that does not have to be. And as we kind of look at this together today, is what does it mean to be a person that is leading a business and trying, what is AI and how do I use it and how do I not kind of arrive to the party too late that my business is in jeopardy and things like that. So I want to really talk about that and kind of give you some concrete steps for what we can do as business leaders to make that happen. So what we're going to do is just a really high-level agenda. We're going to talk about, first of all, let's talk about use cases. We're then going to talk about data to drive those use cases. Some small-scale AI pilots, this concept, really putting the right team together. How do I do that? How do I then put in governance and the responsible use pieces? And then what are my next steps? And then, like I said, we're going to do, or like Wendy said, we're going to do some questions at the end. Please pop those into the chat. We'll go ahead and answer those questions. So let's kick it off. The first thing I want to eat for each one of these, I'm going to give some use cases, some experiences that we've had looking through these things. Some of them are going to be successful ones. Some of them are going to be harder ones. That were, hey, we didn't have the level of success that we really wanted to. And the first one is really looking at, we were working with an education firm, and they had a website that they needed to do remediation on. And what we said, accessibility remediation, and looking at what it's going to take to get it to a point where the website was accessible to folks with some kind of a disability. And rather than doing that all by hand and going through every little box to make sure it was right, we were able to put AI on that, identify all the different pieces, and be able to move forward with that website in a way that was significantly faster. And there were actually many other examples too about how does AI actually help you to move maybe into another market, for example. Let's say you were in a market in one state, but the laws are different in another state. How can I use AI to move into that other state's market without having to completely redesign everything I'm doing? Those would be some examples of really good, high-value problems that can be solved by AI. So when you get your team together and you say, hey, what are these problems? Now, the big thing that I see people doing is they say, AI is the answer. And it's like a hammer looking for a nail, right? And we really want to try to help you focus on finding the nails or screws, whatever example you want to use, in your business, right? These are the things that are going to be your repetitive, error-prone business problems, where you can get a defined return on investment from that particular, if you're able to make a change there. And we really want to make sure that the AI outperforms whatever your existing process is. Because the reality is, it's not going to in all cases. Right now, AI is getting better, and we're seeing it get better. I don't know if it's quite exponential, but it's at a pretty high speed. We're seeing it within our sector get significantly better. And so the answer may not be, well, no, we're not going to use AI on this. It might be not now. So let's talk a little bit about how we find the right kinds of problems. So the key questions you want to ask: where am I spending the most time on manual, repetitive work? Where are our folks going ahead and just kind of churning on something? And there's some great graphs, and we can even send out a couple of things after this that kind of show a matrix. Like, hey, if I can save 10 minutes, 20 times a day for 5 people, what's the ROI look like on that? And so I really encourage you to do those kind of calculations rather than just trying to kind of guess, hey, that seems like it would be a great thing. Actually go in and do some of the math behind that. We're also looking for where the most errors happen. So when you think about, you're not only trying to increase speed and productivity, you're also looking to push down risk, which also has significant business value. So think about that. And then the other one you should think about is which decisions you have to make all the time as a company. If you had more information, like let's say maybe I had a dashboard, if you're like an EOS company, and you want that dashboard, how could we use AI and maybe some machine learning to be able to pull those things up? And I just used the AI and machine learning, and just to make a little bit of a distinction there. So AI is kind of a general thing for a general umbrella for all types of computer-based, whether that's predicting the next sentence that's going to come out or predicting the next set of data that's going to come out. And really machine learning focuses a lot more on the numbers and things like that. In typical parlance, there's a lot of different definitions, but that's how we tend to do that. And one kind of new idea that's out there is that you may find yourself with a system that you've adopted, and it was maybe from one of the big players, maybe from a smaller player, and it's like, yeah, we kind of had to do this, but we really don't love this particular system. But we did it because it was only X number of dollars per person per month, and we couldn't build a system for that. That return on investment calculation is changing, because the idea of having systems that can be coded very quickly now to meet the specifics of what we kind of call the secret sauce of your business, those things that make you unique and competitive in your particular space, that those things can now start to be baked into an application that is really one that is yours. So as we look, hopefully to the next slide, some actionable steps. So what does this look like? You get your team together, your leaders, your people that are your key performers on your team, and say, hey, what can we do? What are the use cases that are going to save us the money? You then want to make sure that you do some ranking. Go ahead and rank those pain points. Find out where the pain points are, identify those. You want to prioritize those use cases, rank them most to least, and then really say, okay, now if we were to do maybe a pilot or try something out, which we'll talk about in just a minute, here's kind of our top. I'd encourage you to have somewhere between 2 and 4 that you can be willing to get started with. So the next thing, once you have that figured out, the real key, the next piece is looking at what data am I going to need in order for the AI to be successful at solving the problems that we'd like to solve in our business. So one of the ones I'd like to talk about here, and I think we've had some successes and some failures here, and a lot of this had to do with just looking at what the returns on investment were. There were several of these that we actually went ahead and abandoned with an insurance company, where we talked through a bunch of different use cases and tried to really determine, hey, do you have the right sets of data for these particular problems? And sometimes the answer was no, because the data just wasn't being collected. And then the answer usually is, let's start collecting that data. And so in this case, we were able to actually have a pretty significant machine learning effort by taking their information and being able to plot out, hey, if we're here today, where does it look like we're going to go tomorrow? And not just like a simple go into Excel and kind of do the projection, being able to take lots of different kinds of disparate data. And one little thing we talk about here at IntelliTect is AI is really good for what we call fuzzy data. And this might be like when a customer comes back and they give you a comment, looking through those comments and analyzing them various different topics and sentiments and different kinds of trends. Data that is loosely correlated, like data maybe on how many times a person comes to your website versus maybe some other kind of information, maybe clicks somewhere else on a website. Hey, how can we maybe pull those things together? AI is good at looking at some of those fuzzy things, whether it's kind of more of a direct kind of large language model that really looks at the types of the text, the human kind of thing, or whether it's really more of a machine learning that's looking at that raw data. So when we think about data accessibility and quality, we're looking at essentially 4 areas. And so the first one is really readiness. Do we have data, the data that's required to be able to have AI make the kinds of decisions and give us the kinds of data back that we need? And so this is really super important, and you may just simply not be gathering that data right now, and really your first step is to figure out, hey, how do we go and get this data? The second thing is, if you have the data, is it accessible? Oftentimes, this data is gonna live across a number of different systems, maybe or your accounting, or if you're manufacturing in some kind of a manufacturing execution systems, it could be all over the place. And you may have like Teams or Outlook or things like that, or SharePoint, wherever you're storing your information, to be able to find a way to kind of put your arms around this. And this can actually be one of the more challenging problems in AI, is just getting your data. And you hear a lot of different terms. Some people are calling it lake house. You hear about medallion architectures and things like that, which I think are all great ways to kind of look at that. But you have to really take a look there first before you just start throwing AI at things. You have to make sure you have the data that's going to be required. Third thing, is the data of high enough quality that if decisions on this data, that they're going to be the right decisions, right? That you actually have good enough data to drive this. And can you really make sure that the data is representative enough of the different kinds of use cases that you're going to use to make that all happen? And so, and when you think through this process, you're going to start coming up with many different kinds of information that's going to be required. I would encourage you, as you pick your first pilots, pull things that have relatively simple data sets that you have available. It is not required to get your entire kind of data house in order before you get started. You really just need to say, hey, we want to solve this problem. We have this thing over here. We want to analyze our accounting systems and how we're doing our billing and all of that. And we just need to make sure that those particular things have the data that we need. And maybe all you need there is some accounting data to make that happen. So the questions you want to ask: is our data centralized? Is it scattered? So it doesn't mean you have to centralize it all. It just means somehow you may need to pull it. It doesn't mean you need to go all into one system for everything that you do, but it does mean that you need to be able to take that information and have it in a way that's accessible. Do we have enough data in the past to be able to start predicting things that are going to happen in the future? And finally, and this is really a huge thing, is what are the security implications? And this is often something that's overlooked, and sometimes it's fairly easy. It's data that's relatively benign. You're not concerned about different people in the company seeing this particular information. But in other cases, it's very important. Like, for example, you may have only a group that actually has access to this, or even in another case, you may have several groups that are going to use the same AI, and they're going to be using it against different data sets. So it's very important that you understand how the security implications of your data are going to be handled within your particular environment. Because it's not only just the fact that you want to keep it secure internally, but you probably have external requirements with your users, and there's also just government and things like that. You do not want to run afoul of some of these things, because it's not a good thing. And quite honestly, AI is one of the very easiest places to have data loss, however, in whatever format that happens. So our recommendations are these. Do a data inventory. Go out, make a list. Where's all your data? Where does it live? How do I get to it? Do I have gaps as I'm looking at my pilots? Going ahead, taking those pilots and looking at, let me see if I can get back to the right slide here, what the specific needs are for the pilots that I want to run. You don't have to solve the world right now. Just see it for the pilots you want to do I have the right kind of data? Third, the data needs an owner. So you need somebody that's going to have a person that's responsible for seeing that that data is maintained and accessible, all the things we've been talking about. And then really setting up your architecture so that you can then get to that data and use it in a way that really makes sense for the way that AI ingests that data. There's lots of different ways to do this. And we'll kind of talk about some of those ways as we go. But I want to make sure that we're really saying, hey, we want to pull those things together so that you can have your data ready for whatever AI problems you decide to throw at it. All right, next topic. Talk about, now that we have each one of our kind of little ideas, data, it's now time for a pilot. And what we doing something small. It's very easy to want to just kind of throw everything in. This is a massive problem. We can save so much money. Try something small. Just do a little bit at first and say, hey, let's do something that's really scaled to have that success. So let me tell you about a situation where successful as I was hoping we would be. It was partially successful for sure. So we did kind of this joint venture with the Spokane Symphony, and they did James, the conductor there, he wanted to do this kind of experiment that had been done a while ago. It was done with this ancient AI technology from 2022, which is like 4 years ago, which is now like literally ancient technology. And Beethoven's 10th Symphony was incomplete. And they had an AI kind of take his notes and make part of it, and then they had a person take his notes and make a part of it. And so we played these back to back, and what we did is we made this big thing we could put up on the screen where people could vote, and they could actually kind of express their emotions, and we had some AI pictures that would show up in the background, and we had a great time like generating a whole bunch of images, and we really explored a lot of new technology with respect to like how you can actually, say, find images that relate to people's emotions and things like that. But what we found, and what we were kind of hoping, is that, man, maybe we could do this and more symphonies would want to use it, or we could use it at sporting events or whatever the thing was. And we just realized that this was kind of an AI, we could solve this problem with AI, but nobody really wanted the solution. And so it really didn't turn out the way we wanted to. Now, did we learn a ton, and was this kind of one of our first forays into doing this? Absolutely. But when it came right down to it, we didn't do the first step right. And this was, again, way kind of at the beginning of really defining what that business case was. So assume that you will have some of these, that when you get done, it might not be the thing to implement. And that's why we want to make sure that we do these small cases to start with. So the focus pilot is really the key here, is focus in on 1, 2, or maybe a maximum of 3 pilots. And then you want to see if you can deliver a quick win to the team. Now, let me just talk about this a little bit. In certain cases, you're going to be able to deliver a pilot. The pilot has to be big enough that you know whether it's successful. You can't just kind of play at it at the level of, yeah, it kind of works. It has to be operationalized enough that people who are actually in the seats doing the work can use the application. Now, that being said, it may not be what we would kind of call enterprise ready. That's okay. I mean, you're doing a pilot. You're giving it to maybe a subset of your teams or maybe one of your smaller teams to see if we can get a win from this. And really, this has a couple of things. You know, as you think about being a business leader, you're not only thinking about, hey, what can AI do for my organization? But you're also thinking about, how is my organization viewing AI? And how am I helping our teams to lead through this? And hopefully to kind of adopt the methodology that your organization is coming around to with AI. And we'll talk about some governance and things like that in a little bit. But this idea that by giving some quick wins to the team, they can see, oh, you know, maybe AI is not going to steal my job, because that is fear, right? But if people realize that maybe AI can actually do a thing that I actually don't enjoy doing, and I can spend more time doing the things that I actually enjoy, that can be a real shift. And I think as you think about your pilots, consider not only the impact to your business bottom line, but consider the impact to how it's going to affect the way that people at your organization are thinking and the way that they're working with AI. So, as we think about these pilots, what do? First off, you want to make sure that your pilot is well scoped. What exactly are we going to do? What problems are we going to try to solve? Make this as small as is valuable. Right? Don't make it so small it's not valuable, but make it so that your folks can actually see a change in something that's good, but it's not so much stuff that you can never kind of put your arms around it. And it can just kind of grow out of control, and you never quite have success. You want to make sure there's some kind of a timeline. We're recommending 3 to 6 months is kind of a great timeline. 3 to 6 months, sorry. That's not what the slide says. 30 to 90 days, 1 to 3 months, to be able to kind of give it enough of a run. Again, when you try to get your data and all that stuff in order, it can take a little while, especially around governance and training and things like that, and really giving it enough time to be successful. So you're going to spend kind of the first part of that time building something, and then you're going to spend some time kind of proving that out. We want to make sure there's a really clear definition of success. What does it look like for this to go forward? And really, these are about metrics and key performance indicators that you're going to have for your teams to say, hey, is this actually helping us? And if it's not, why not? Really get some of that, because you most likely, you may not get exactly the information with the first time, and you may have to make some slight adjustments. So just be aware that you're going to have to work with this process to be able to where you're going to find your wins, because you may not find a win the first time. You may have to pivot into another thing, but oftentimes there will be some really great nuggets within the space that you're looking at. And then probably one of the key important pieces is choosing someone on your team that is going to be the champion. If you're trying to drive this only from the top, it will probably fail. By having a couple people that you identify as early adopters, and you kind of look at that adoption curve, you kind of see this. You have kind of the early adopters, you have the middle group that kind of picks it up when everybody else does, and then you kind of have the laggards on the side. You want to find the people in your organization who are these early adopters and help them to catch the vision for what you're doing, because they are the influencers in your organization. Pick them and allow them to be the banner carriers for this. Give them the vision and allow them to go and execute. So, what does it look like practically? Get your pilot set up, define your KPIs, set a timeline, define what your criteria of success and when it needs to be done, and then really document these results along the way. I'd encourage you to actually maybe even make up some forms, some surveys, some things like that you can give your folks as they're working through this, because you're not only going to be measuring what the actual business outcomes are, but you're going to be measuring the outcomes when it comes to how the people are accepting this and how they're feeling about this, because it's kind of easy. If you don't have the team that's all on the same page, it's pretty easy to sink an AI initiative if it's not prepped up correctly. All right, so since we're talking about teams, let's talk about what it means to build an AI team. Now, there's some organizations out there that are basically just going to bring a consultant in like us that's going to help them and do the thing, and you really don't need an AI team per se. And there's other places that are going to want to build some AI expertise internally. And I think there's a lot of, I don't know, bad information out there, or just information, a lack of information probably more than anything else, about how these teams need to be built. One of the folks with a manufacturing company down in Boise, rolling out what is effectively AI training to a very large organization. And how do you help a large organization build internal teams that have levels of expertise that match the needs of the particular business? And in this particular case, we actually did several different kinds of training, and we found that some was more effective than others. And that's part of going through this, is figuring out what's the right fit for your team. In this case, it was what we call some co-pilot training, and that's a tool that allows you to use some of the tools that Microsoft has to be able to not only develop code, but also to use that in kind of your day-to-day business interactions. Like, hey, can I summarize my inbox? Can I take these documents over here, look at those, and build a new document? Hey, we have to do some regulatory information. Here's a folder that has all my regulatory data in it. Go grab these, give me this summary for the next 3 weeks worth of meetings that I need to have, those kinds of things. And so we find that kind of training, and then really is helpful, and then really working on the best practices and figuring out how do you, and people talk about kind of creating this kind of center of excellence where you have people inside your organization that really understand how AI should be in the context of their organization, using the best practices, and really keeping that culture that your organization wants to embody. So when we talk about building the right team, everybody initially goes to, I need to go find a PhD that knows how to do AI and can do all the things and all the data munging and vector this and all the fancy words, whatever they mean. And that's actually what you don't need. Maybe if it was like 2 years ago, that would be the answer. Like, hey, you got to find an AI person to do that. And that's really just not where we are now. There's so much AI that's being packaged that's really not the level, unless you're a massive organization or have some really specific needs, that's probably not the thing that you're going to need now. So that being said, that doing AI in business is complicated. You hear about vibe coding and all of that, and hey, somebody just went out and they built this application that now runs their business. And yeah, we've done this. We actually spent, we called it Jamuary, because we were code jamming, building applications. And the only rule about what you could build is that you couldn't write any code by hand. Right? And so we had all kinds of apps that people wrote. One gal wrote this fashion app where you could take a picture of your wardrobe and make different outfits and stuff. It's obviously, I use it a lot. And the thing is that I think that people were really excited about how much they could get done. The problem was they go, well, I feel like I can't either maintain the thing, or it's very difficult to kind of take to the next level or institutionalize or productionize or really pull into what would be kind of an enterprise context. And so as you look at these things, the easy wins are easy. Like just a little thing, super simple. The problem is when you get to larger things, that's when you really have some of these issues that start popping up. And so I would really just don't underestimate kind of, if you're going to be doing some of this stuff internally, that it can be complex, and it's important to bring that right team together. So what do you need? And really it comes down to what we call a cross-functional team. Because you're able to build solutions so quickly, the importance of having people that are business-minded on the team is more important than ever. Like whenever we do software projects, we say that the number one most important thing is what we call a product owner. And that is the person from one of our clients that says, this is what it needs to do. And then when we build something, they hopefully basically immediately give us feedback, either, yeah, that does it, or that doesn't do it, or yeah, now that I think about it, I told you not quite the whole story, and we need to expand this a little bit. And that's a super important part, because you will find that you can actually build things very, very quickly with AI, but both AI solutions that you build with AI and AI solutions that use AI is actually part of the solution. So think about it in those kinds of terms, putting that business person or that business team and this kind of technical team together to really find these great solutions. So the question you should be asking, do we have people that are internal that can pick this stuff up and really evaluate and manage the AI solutions that we're considering? If the answer is yes, if the answer is no, you may want to consider partnering with some kind of an external entity. We do this kind of stuff. There's a lot of other companies that do as well. They can kind of give you that leg up in either training or as part of the team or whatever that looks like. And really looking at how do we then get that whole team skilled to be making great decisions. When it comes down to it, training is there so that your team can be operating at the highest efficiency possible, so that you can give them the vision from the leadership to be able to go in and say, hey, we want to make this kind of change in our business. How can we do those things? Your business team, your technical team works together and comes up with solutions. That's really the ideal situation. So where do I would recommend having someone in your organization that is your AI champion. Who is the person that is going to be watching, understanding the markets, understanding the new technology, and looking at what we can do as an organization to be able to impact change within our organization. So there we go, get the clicker to work here. We also need to think about what kind of tools are we going to use. There's many, many, many tools out there. And honestly, I would encourage some caution, because right now we're seeing tools crop up and basically disappear almost overnight. And so I would recommend the big players. They're going to provide the most solidity through this time of change. So if all of a sudden you hitch your whole AI thing to any company that has only been in business for 2 years, and if they're an AI company and they say they've been in business for more than 2 years, that's going to be dubious at best, because there's not a lot of them. They're mostly firms like us who've been doing software development and now happen to be doing AI stuff. So that's good. I mean, you want to find someone with a long track record, but you do need to make sure that when you're evaluating your tools, you have a team that can do that well, and that you're looking at tools that are really going to help your business in the long term. It aren't going to kind of fall out from underneath you, because there's been a lot of that, what we've seen in the market. Leadership training is critical. Understanding and have your leadership team understand how to think about AI. Again, AI is not a problem. AI is a solution to some types of problems. It's going to be good for some types of things. and actually many types of things. We're finding lots of AI success across the board. And then really looking at what does it look like to do frontline training. Not only to you kind of have your leadership, you have your people who are doing the implementations, and then for your frontline workers, what does that look like? And it's not just, here's how you use the thing. It's understanding what your business vision is. When we talk about governance here in a minute, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But really making sure that people, it's not just what they think. This is one of those situations where what they feel is going to be incredibly important to your business bottom line in the long run. So let's take a few minutes and talk about what we term governance and responsibility. And really what this is it's how am I going to approach AI in a way that is humanizing, right? We talk about humanizing AI because, and I've had discussions with people and they say, oh, I think AI is developing a soul. Well, I kind of know how it works, and there's just numbers. Like, it literally is just numbers. And it may feel that way, like I'm telling it my all about my life, and it gives me good advice. And yeah, it's because it's a wonderful predictor of the next thing that you want to hear. That's exactly what it does. And so one of the things I want to just talk about real quick is an internal application that we're developing called Case Amplify. And the idea behind Case Amplify is that if I'm doing some kind of case management, I may walk in, if I needed case management, I walk in and I see a case manager, and that case manager has 30 years of experience. And because that case manager has 30 years of experience, I'm going to get this amazing experience from all the programs I'm available that are applicable to me. They're going to know the right kinds of questions and everything about that could really help me to get, maybe it's kind of fixed and stable, whatever that is, whatever the goals are. But if I walked in and, hey, I got the newbie, right? And it's just the person that's been there for, let's say, a few weeks or a month, they're going to be looking through books and they're going to miss all kinds of things. And the question we were asking was, can we level that playing field, right? And then what does that look like to level that playing field? How can I bring that person, they're never going to be at the 30-year point, but can I help them out and help them to feel like they can do their job in a significantly better way and in a humanizing way? And our goal really is to say, hey, how can I not just take a whole bunch of notes all the time, and how can I not just look through stuff while I'm trying to have a one-on-one time with someone, and how can I make that one-on-one time really about the relationship from a human to a human and not just me collecting data? And so for us, we spend a lot of time talking about what does that mean for us to make something in this space that is more humanizing and really has that at its heart. And then all the complexities of how we handle all of this data kind of behind the scenes at the same time. So there's really kind of this human element, but there's also this real security element that we also had to discuss. So as we move through this, we see what is responsible governance. And so you think about in your organization, what are the things that are going to be different when you adopt it? AI in some part of your organization. And how can potential hallucinations or all the different things around data privacy impact our business? And not only our business bottom line, but how the people in our business view what we're doing and the people that had been doing this job and what they're now doing. And then how do the people externally actually view that too? You then have to think about, what do I want to put in place after you define those things? What do I want to put in place to help us to govern those things? What guardrails do I need there? And then really understanding why it matters. In a lot of ways, this comes back to mission, right? Our mission here is purposeful generosity. It's one of the core things that we're about. And we're kind of an odd company. And I would encourage you to go and check out some of the stuff on the IntelliTect.com website if you're interested in seeing some of that. But know why things matter to you and how that's going to work across the board for your organization. It's going to help you a lot with this governance. So, questions to ask. What are the guardrails that our organization needs for stuff going into AI and things coming out of AI? What do we need to put on there to make sure that we're going to be giving good information in and good information out? What kinds of things should go in? What kinds of things should be coming out? And even knowing about, hey, if you're using a free model, this is what I basically tell everyone. If you are not paying for AI, or if you're not paying for anything in life, you are the commodity that's being sold. Your data is being sold. So do not put anything into an AI model that you are not paying for, and you do not have some kind of a thing from that organization that says our data will not be used for training. Because basically, if someone takes your data you're putting in and turns around and uses that for training, it means that your data is getting in some form or fashion baked into those models that the next generation of folks are going to be using. So just be aware of that. So how do we handle our sensitive or customer information? All of that kind of thing, really important. Kind of just talked about that just a little bit. But make sure that it means you're probably going to have to pay. Because again, if you're not paying, your data is being sold. And then how do we, and a lot of people don't even consider this, but when do we tell our both employees and our, most importantly, our customers, when they're getting information from AI? And what does that data look like when they're going to be consuming it in such a way? So does it look just like a human did it, or is it going to say, hey, this is, you want to check this for errors? And you see these, like if you've done a Google search recently, you kind of see that little top AI stuff, and they show you down below. Do you want to include references cited? All of those kinds of things. Those are super important questions to ask. And what is our policy for transparency? And the bottom line is there isn't always a single answer, because in certain cases, it may be fine just to give an AI answer, and either the context says that everybody already knows that's an AI answer, or it's so, the chance of the AI being wrong about that thing is so incredibly low that it just really doesn't matter. Like when you're thinking about like a phone call-in system or maybe a little web page or something like that. Nowadays, chatbots, everybody kind of assumes they're AI, although it's probably good to somehow name it or show that on the screen somehow. So as far as next steps go, what we would really encourage you to do is work out some kind of an AI usage policy. This is usually about a 150-page document that we will sell you. No, I'm just kidding. It should actually be very, very simple. This should be something that people understand. And you're talking about several different things. You're talking about how we're using AI internally, how we're showing AI externally, and what we want to kind of have be our guiding principles around that. You want to talk about what is the human oversight? Where do we need to have human beings in the loop? Like for our stuff for Case Amplify, human beings are in the loop all along the entire process. And so we kind of bake that human element into the whole thing. Not all processes work like that. Some of these processes run in batch behind the scenes overnight. And so you have to decide, when is AI going to just do the thing, and when is AI not going to just do the thing, going to ask a human being? And just to dig down on this just a little bit more, what we really encourage is that whenever you start doing something with AI, you generate and you record a lot of data. Because it's going to be really important to be able to go back and audit all of these things. And especially, we like this pattern of initially, AI can do nothing. So we would say AI has no agency. It can't reach out and do stuff automatically. It can basically provide information back that tells a human what to do. And then the human does whatever the thing is and records whether AI was right or wrong about its recommendations. You then take that information, you feed it in, and you then just determine, hey, you know, if AI is 90% sure this is the right answer, we're just going to have AI do this, and everything else to verify. And then maybe you may work and say, hey, you know, if AI is 50% sure, we're going to have it do it automatically, and then and with a human being able to undo it, and then the other 50%. So you can kind of move that around and kind of slide that scale from AI does nothing automatically to AI does a lot of things as you work up and you train it and you fix the prompts and you do all that kind of thing to produce the results you're looking for. And I kind of talked about that continuous review, that's really it. And then the regulatory monitoring is just making sure that you're doing the kinds of things. So if you're HIPAA compliance or SOC 2, there's a bunch of different things that you can have compliancy for. You will want to make sure you bake that into your systems in the beginning. So now that we've kind of covered kind of all the basic steps, so like what do you actually do? And one of the things that we're working on right now here for a company in Spokane is really working out an enterprise-grade AI infrastructure. They have a lot of data that comes into their data centers. As a result of that data, there are tons of different alerts that come up. And they want to be able to process those alerts in an offline fashion so that the AI can come in and say, hey, for this alert, our recommendation is that you would fix it this way. And so the user, rather than having to go out and compile all this data, pull it all back, the AI can go out, see what the problem is, understand, okay, let me go grab this data and bring that back so that a person doesn't have to go out and do all that searching on their own. And so what they were looking for is an infrastructure that would allow them to build new versions of this. And so this is including helping them get all the data kind of in order and so it's accessible, and then really building a framework and infrastructure, not only to execute, but to be able to record the results of that data over time so that they can grade it. Because AI is not just, hey, you start this, and here you are, and that's it. It's this thing that will evolve over time. The only thing I can tell you about AI is it's going to be different tomorrow, right? The functionality is going to be more or less the same. But here in the coding world, we kind of say, I think it was November 23rd is when Claude Opus 4.5 came out. And that was a change. I mean, we moved from AI that could not write code very well to AI that could write code really well. And then I think it was late January, early February, Claude Opus 4.6 came out, which was another huge bump. And several other models have come out. And just in the course of a few months, we've seen a huge change. I was actually prepping for a class that I teach at Eastern Washington University. And I was getting ready for it over the break, and I'm finding these new tools that are now out, and I literally changed the entire class to be based around, the students don't need to know the same things that they used to know, all the little details and syntax and where to put semicolons and C's and all the things. That's a lot less important now than it was, and now I need to really be teaching a lot more of the higher level engineering concepts. So it's really been amazing to see. I've just assumed that if you can't solve it today, there's a good chance you're going to be able to solve it tomorrow. So when we kind of think about a playbook, we look at these different use cases and say, hey, what are my use cases and what are my data? You can really work those in parallel. I would have teams. A lot of times they're different teams. You can kind of look at those. Don't think you have to do them serially, but look at your use cases, look at your data. From that, figure out what are your best use cases that you also have data for. Do your pilot. You then evaluate the results of that pilot after it's complete, and then you do some kind of an implementation. And undergirding all of this is really your corporate AI philosophy and governance, and the team and the partners that you decide to get together to make that happen. So this is kind of a fairly simple chart to kind of look at what steps and what next steps can you take. So let's just summarize. Start with the high value problems. Find your best issues. Make sure you have the data to solve those issues. Run that small pilot. Really having the metrics there, the KPIs that you're measuring, and then build that team, build out your governance responsibly, and then say, hey, we're gonna go for this thing and let's build something. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, this is, again, to kind of bring it all the way back around, I think this is one of the most exciting times to live in this space because there's so much possibility. Things that I did not think that I would ever have a car drive me to work. I did not think that would happen in my lifetime. The problem was too hard. It's basically solved problem. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And I think we're going to see this in all kinds of areas. It is not whether or not we're going to use AI. It's about how we're going to use AI. And I'm excited about business leaders like the folks here being willing to engage in these conversations in ways that are humanizing, in ways that are going to benefit our culture, our humanity, and businesses, quite honestly. I think there's huge things to be gained out of all of this. So with that, I don't know if there were any questions that were put in the chat. We're good on questions. So feel free, if you do have questions, feel free to pop those back. If there are any other things, that'll be great. Other than that, I think, Wendy, I'll let you kind of cap us off. Thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully this was helpful.
Thank you, Grant, and thank you, everybody, for attending. I think one of the main takeaways is that a successful AI adoption program includes the 4 things that Grant just mentioned, but also includes supporting and empowering your teams that are involved in those programs. As I mentioned before, we've been helping our clients do AI adoption for a few years now, and we offer a wide range of services. We provide leadership coaching, we provide training for all ranges of the workforce, including training for software developers. We also develop software using AI. We help our clients build frameworks that exist in their infrastructure that allow their internal development teams to leverage AI in a controlled, safe, and efficient way. And lastly, we provide technology business consulting. If today's session left you with some questions or wondering what your specific next steps are, feel free to engage with us. We're happy to help. We offer a free 1-hour AI consultation with us. And if you're interested in that, email me at wendy@intellitect.com. Thank you all again for joining us. We're glad that you were able to participate, and we hope that this session helped generate some ideas on how you can see AI adoption happening in your organization. And have a great day.